When Ryan's when it's time to begin, it's on the Rewind-A-Wai with John Pollock and Wai Ting. The 18 that makes sense of these things we see in the ring every week on TV. It's Rewind-A-Wai for Monday night. Download it Tuesday morning from the Post Wrestling site. It's Rewind-A-Wai for Monday night on USA Now on the John and Wai Take the Mic.
Don't adjust your screen. It's Tuesday afternoon, and here we are, John Pollock and Wai Ting with Rewind-A-Raw. Man, we are such
Look at the smiles on our faces.
Excited.
Look how refreshed. I have fewer wrinkles on my head, you know, at this time of day. So
wow. I went to the dentist this morning.
Wow.
Huge.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's what you do in your free time.
That's it. Yeah. Rode my bike no less today. So take that, ice. Not the group, but rather the substance. Yes. So yeah, it's actually nice out, and don't we know it? We're expected to get hit with more snow tomorrow.
Of course.
So enjoy the bike weather while you can here in Toronto. But as much as people are curious about my teeth, we are going to be getting into Raw, and lots to talk about coming out of Memphis, Tennessee on a Monday evening, Family Day here in parts of Canada. Chinese New Year. I understand the year of the soaring, firing horse, the fire-powered horse.
The soaring, firing, power horse. Yes, exactly.
The power horse.
Happy year of that. Yes.
Feels like a bad wrestler's nickname. It's the power horse.
Soaring power horse.
Power horse Hobbs. Maybe that'll be his rebranding.
He could make it work. Yeah, if he ever shows up, yes.
A big if. Yeah.
Hopefully
could he fit into a box? Could he fit into a box?
That box, yeah, he could. He could.
Maybe he'll
a long time to wait.
Slap AEW on the side of it. And,
all right. What's in the box we will be discussing on this podcast.
Yes, man in the box. The big mystery going into Elimination Chamber. All right. We just did 40 minutes of news. For those on the Post Wrestling Cafe, you can catch the whole XL version of this show. We talked a lot about Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey, who are going to fight on May 16th. Is there any chance this fight falls apart, Way?
Of course there is. Yes, injuries can happen. All right, don't we know it? Well into our 40s. So I hope not. I'm actually quite curious about this one.
Yeah, I think there's a good part it happens. It's a very big story that these two are fighting on Netflix, no less. So we talked about that extensively, as well as many other news stories, including the latest on Bianca Belair, who has had her latest setback. Cain Velasquez out of prison, and Wai and I booking his post-prison release and where he's going to go next, who's going to be interested in him. AEW crossing the Rubicon onto getting the full WBD crossover treatment mentioned on HBO's Last Week Tonight. I mean, this is all part of the plan, right? WrestleMania 41, it did all right. How much money did they extract out of you, the consumer, last year for 2 nights of WrestleMania? The number is not a typo if you're watching. And my favorite segment of the week, our weekly AAA recap, where we go through Mini Vikingo and his mother in the hospital, and Chad A.I. Gable at work with his message for the fake imposter. The man's been a victim of identity theft, as he states in his promo, presented to you by every clawed anthropic offshoot you can imagine.
Sora, yeah. All the records in the world, and yet even saving that much more money by this use of artificial intelligence.
Yes. Yeah. Wait till Dude Wipes is just all over AAA as well.
Sure.
Are we going to get a Dude Wipes stipulation match where someone's got to wipe the other guy's ass or something?
Anything is possible. Yes.
Yeah.
Good storyline, good narrative.
On to Raw. The FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. WrestleTic's last number, 8,657, in close proximity to SmackDown from a year ago that did 8,900, again, according to WrestleTix. The Usos start the show. They just come out through the arena, and then the Vision come out, and I think Jimmy and Jay just stood here in the crowd for 10 minutes before they were called upon again, because Heyman cuts off their music. Logan Paul brags about his weekend, which featured him selling his Pokemon Pikachu Illustrator card for $16.5 million.
Yeah, that is
More than Anderson Silva got in the Kung Lee lawsuit.
So you know what? That it's almost a quarter of what WrestleMania generated.
Almost a quarter. Wow,
Yeah.
you wouldn't say.
With this card. Yeah. This
I-
is unreal.
Yeah. I don't want to be all virtue signaling and stuff, but when I see stuff like this, it's just like this is just there needs to be a better understanding or a better wealth distribution in this world when you can blow $16.5 million on a fucking card here. Well, anyway, but good for Logan Paul, I guess. Yeah.
Sure.
Who bought this? Do we know? Did they?
I don't know.
Who cares?
I don't know. Some
he
moron.
doesn't need any. He or she doesn't need.
Maybe
any
it's going to
more
a great
promotion.
cause. You know, maybe this is.
Oh, you think
going
Logan
to-
Paul is going to take this money and disperse it? Maybe give it to Jake Paul for some understanding of Puerto Rican's connection to the United States of America. Austin Theory reacts to the attack by the Masked Man, and Adam Pearce comes out, says, "You're hijacking my show," which we learned he had nothing planned for the first half hour of Raw. So they really were hijacking nothing. In fact, they were saving Raw from just having nothing for 30 minutes. Heyman explains he wants Bronson Reed put into the chamber match, so he's going to have a qualifier next week. Then LA Knight is out, insults Logan by calling him a simple-minded, broccoli-haired bitch, and that prompts a 6-man tag to be made as the Usos team with LA Knight against Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, and Austin Theory to kick off the show.
Yeah. In the essence of obviously Seth and now Braun Breaker, I mean, Logan, at least on this episode and maybe even in other appearances, he really does kind of feel to me like the sort of like centerpiece of this group now, and maybe by default as the
Is he the Pikachu of the group?
Pikachu would be the centerpiece of the franchise, Pokemon franchise. Yeah, he'd be the first in the Pokemon deck of the Vision, I suppose. So like in some ways, I actually feel like Logan is a very well-suited person to be like a leader of this group. Maybe even in some ways more so than Braun Breaker, who I see more as like, you know, the heavy next to the leader. And, you know, with Braun not being as much of a talker, like I wonder if they'll go ahead with this sort of more elevated role now that we know that Logan is pretty much like weekly presence on the show. So, by the way, did you notice LA Knight was wearing a shirt that read
Unchosen
in the style of the Unreal logo? So clearly a take on that. I mean, I wonder if it's like a direct reference to just like the scene of him getting chewed out in Gorilla becoming a bit of a viral thing. Obviously, they're also playing to the idea that he is now this sort of generation's Daniel Bryan type, you know, the type that is not being positioned.
Yeah, I look at this guy and I think Bryan Danielson.
Well, in the way that he's
understand.
not the company choice, but the one the fans want. That seems to be how at least this shirt is trying to market him.
It's funny, though, with the whole Seth deal, he was one of the few chosen to be told. He was almost unchosen if Seth had his way, but he was chosen to be.
Maybe that's what this shirt was referencing. He's almost unchosen to be let in on the secret. Yeah.
Get over here. I've got a secret. So, yes, the unchosen one, LA Knight, is out. So, Paul taunts Knight as he's working him over. And, my God, this heat on LA Knight may have just gone on forever. Reed finally misses a senton. Then Theory misses, just like the Three Stooges missing as LA Knight makes the tag to Jay. Theory gets posted. There's a BFT on the floor, and then Reed runs Knight into the timekeeper section. And Logan Paul, who 24 hours ago got mocked by Andrade as a move stealer, adds the zigzag to his repertoire here, delivering it to Jay for a 2 count. And then it's a super kick party, 1D to Paul, which gets broken up by Bronson, and then Bronson hits a suicide dive. I thought this guy was like on a mission to bring the Vision down by even another man because this guy was trying to kill himself. Right hand is delivered by Logan Paul to Jimmy, and the Tsunami finishes Jimmy in 12 minutes and 53 seconds. And Logan puts on the headset, yells at Michael Cole because of the Masked Man, and ends up getting stomped on the desk by the returning Masked Man, who then hightailed it through the crowd. So he strikes again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As an opener, I thought it was very standard, like for a TV show. A lot of shine put on Reed ahead of his elimination Chamber qualifier, and it seemed very, very obvious that like Reed is going to be the one winning that match because of all the connection that Knight tried to draw to him, stemming from his car attack. And they also had him basically look really strong in this match with delivering like the big spots through the barricade, the big tope, and then of course the finish it with the tsunami. So it seems like Reed will be the person heading into the chamber.
He's going to do a tsunami off the pod, isn't he?
Yeah. Has he not already done one?
I think he has. Yeah, he was in that one we went to in Montreal.
He did one off the what is it? War Games, right? That injured him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was let's hope the Vision, whatever incarnation.
Oh my God, they can't lose any more members.
I was like, they're really tempting fate at this point. It's gonna be Logan Paul is gonna be the only man standing. Yeah. Next week, they already announced the qualifiers for next week, so it'll be Bronson, Jey Uso, and the original El Grande Americano. So yeah, I cannot imagine anyone but Bronson winning that one. And then Raquel Rodriguez, Io Sky, and Kairi Sane. Which I imagine. I guess you could go Io or Raquel, but I imagine Io is going to be in the match.
I think so too. I mean, it's a bigger match as a result. So yeah.
There's a production assistant, Eli. As if we don't have enough Elis in this company. I mean, the only guy who couldn't keep it was old LA, and he brings Adam Pearce to this crate that is labeled "Do not open till February 28th." And Pearce's answer is to ship this to SmackDown, and this can be Nick Aldis's problem. Wouldn't they just ship this to Chicago? They're going to ship this all around. Are we going to have the, like in story, are we going to believe there's a human being in this that is just going to be shipped around the country for the next 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are supposed to believe that. Maybe a corpse.
I mean, this is a fairly like old school, like Memphis type of angle here. The mystery man in the box. I have no insight onto this, but everyone's suspecting this could be Jericho. This feels like the type of thing that could be like the Jericho deal, but I guess you could throw in evil or this could be just your total gobbledygooker misdirect. But I think this will be something of, I mean, this is going to be your some mystery to be revealed at the pay-per-view.
Well, I'll just say, I think anybody who might be beneath a Jericho would feel like a disappointment, like with the way they're like extending this,
You're right.
And build.
Yeah.
Like if it's evil, I think it's a terrible way to set evil off, because I think it would be met with disappointment. Who else could it be on that level?
I'd only make it those two. Like really, unless it's like something so far out of left field that you have of maybe the Street Profits are in here.
Maybe the entire SmackDown Tag Team division, isn't it? So like, Jericho coming out of a crate like this, yes, it feels
the man in the box. It just feels like such a Jericho type of like, weird like, idea that he can run with.
Yeah. But to suggest that he's actually in the box and has been in the box this whole time is certainly like starting the character off in a very comedic light, which is not unusual for Jericho. But I'd argue it's not the best way to use a Chris Jericho. Do you immediately want to like have this iteration of Jericho be a non-serious comedy type of thing? Or could this just be like maybe a comedic introduction to something that might ultimately be a bit more serious, because maybe Jericho isn't in the box. Maybe there's nobody in the box, and Jericho somehow makes his return in another way.
Just to like get into the mindset that I think explains like some of Jericho's thinking, at least. And granted, this isn't going to be all like Jericho's doing or so, but if you remember when he did the program with Dean Ambrose, and they had Mitch the Potted Plant.
Yep.
And total comedy, total goofball stuff. But then he attacked Moxley with the Potted Plant. And that was when like this stupid comedy bit ends. And this is a violent weapon. And if you remember that time, the announcers sold it as total comedy. And I remember interviewing Jericho after this. It was a few months later. I can't even remember the time I've spoken to somebody in like an interview that they have just gone from like pleasant interview to like actively angry as he recalled this. He was so furious at how the announcers treated this as such a sideshow, when it's like, no, I've just delivered like head trauma to this guy with a porcelain vase. And it's like, it was the announcer's job to now the comedy is done. And now this is a violent program. All that is to say is that there's this history of like Jericho can take comedic aspects and then flip the switch, and you can go into something serious right after. The bigger issue I look at is there's a lot of moving pieces at the moment on the main roster of all these new people coming in, and we are seeing in front of our eyes people getting lost in the shuffle already. And not to say Jericho is not going to get lost in the shuffle, but others are, and it's another person now that is thrown into the mix that is, it's just like, granted, if this is ultimately Jericho, like there's a lot of new people coming in, and it just doesn't feel like they have the bandwidth to sustain all these new people and all have significance attached to their arrivals.
It's true, but they play different roles. Jericho plays a very different role from what an Oba Femi or a Trick Williams would. I think Jericho brings an established, star power that those don't necessarily offer. And I think you could translate that established star power to a newer generation. With a newer generation, you need guys like a Jericho in order to pass value on towards. And I know maybe that's been met with mixed results, throughout his AEW run. But I still think he offers a whole lot for, a new generation in the WWE. I mean, you can expect him to be likely paired if he does make it onto WrestleMania. You can expect him to be likely paired with somebody that's not necessarily a star yet.
Yeah, and I mean it's Chicago. It also like ties into where he first debuted with the company as well. And you're right, like you're teasing this. Like if it's not Jericho, you better have an incredible option B, because you're right, it's going to be a letdown because you've kind of given a wink and a nod to the audience to now set your expectation at a Jericho, and you've got to exceed that if it's not Jericho.
Yeah, we went through this with the WrestleMania teasers, and those aren't even meant to be anything but commercials for WrestleMania, if you remember, right?
What commercials for
the
WrestleMania?
playing card trailer?
Oh,
remember?
right.
Yeah.
So we get comments from the women ahead of the Elimination Chamber qualifier. Kathy Kelly interviewed Gable. He just dropped his Spanish. He is clearly not as versed in the language as Kaiser is.
Gable?
Yes. He God, basically, it's limited to like hola.
He couldn't use AI in this segment.
No.
Yeah.
He puts over Javon Evans. It was really just a babyface promo, and he's going to stamp his passport into the Elimination Chamber and ended it with a thank you.
Yeah.
Kaiser's the much better.
Oh my God.
It's like, I also don't like the chin deal on Gable. It doesn't fit him. I don't think. Nattie, Bayley, and Asuka in our qualifier. So Nattie hits a discus lariat onto Asuka. Bayley then drops Nattie, hits the elbow off the top, and then Nattie breaks it up. There's a German to Bayley on the edge of the apron. Asuka lock gets applied to Nattie from behind, but she rolls back to escape. Nattie introduces a sit-out powerbomb, applies the sharpshooter, and Bayley breaks it with a running knee. And Nattie goes off the apron and is hit with a Bayley to belly for a big near fall. Rose Plant gets stopped by Asuka, and then Bayley knees Nattie off the apron and in bouncing off the rope is caught in the Asuka lock, where... How far has Bayley come in 10 years when she was submitting to Asuka's Asuka lock in NXT? And here we are all these years later. And same deal, taps out 10 minutes, 28 seconds. So Asuka qualifies. And then Maxine jumps Nattie at the entrance to continue their program. And Bayley, odd woman out. That's going to be her character going into WrestleMania. We've always got to do the top star. Will they get a spot at WrestleMania?
Yeah. I feel like this year they have to do her a solid and put her on the show, right? After like what they did last year. I mean, but it could always be a storyline for Unreal, not making it to WrestleMania.
Next year's WrestleMania. Have her miss 2 Manias in a row.
Yeah. I thought this match, I mean, they tried to deliver like that sort of very fast, exciting triple threat style. But I don't think for me it was as strong as last week's match with Lyra, Nile, and Rhea, despite maybe a bit of a missed Steiner Bulldog there from Nile. I think with this Nattie rebrand, they've done a decent job. She's definitely more fun to watch now that she's like employing some more high impact moves. But I think the meanness is still a little bit tough for me to buy from her. Especially like I think a very forced sort of like scowl. It comes across more to me like a 7-year-old trying to be scary in a Halloween costume. Like it's a bit more like just cute than somebody that I'm actually afraid of. But I mean, there's still room I think for her to like really turn it up, and I'm not feeling it yet myself.
What if they loan her out to MVP for May? Get this character over
to get on the undercard.
Yeah, her and Maxine MMA fight for real.
MMA fight. Okay, well, sure.
Adam Pearce offers a contract to Oba Femi. He's going to look it over. He wants a no-cut contract. He also wants a cut of dude wipes. You know what I mean? I hope he has some good representation here. And then we got a new debuting figure that came out who was not identified. He came in. He just had a face-off with Oba Femi. Not familiar with this guy at all.
I think he used to be known as Miro.
Oh, okay.
And
well, Miro on the wall. Who the hell is Rusev trying to impersonate here? He's back. He said nothing. He just walked in. He didn't even say anything to Adam Pearce. This is the first we've seen of him in months.
If I was Rusev, I would have just turned right around and walked back out the door because I think he just walked himself into squash match here with
you don't think this will be competitive? You don't think?
I don't sense that it'll be as competitive as his Royal Rumble run, which was not very memorable at all. You see, he's like wearing his Rusev Day shirt.
Well, you know what? He's probably going home every night and reliving 2018 Rusev. I'm sure.
I mean, I don't think that's far off, at this point. Like, certainly a serious run for him is not being supported nor accepted by the audience. So I think are we looking more towards now like a fan-friendly babyface Rusev Day? Rusev again.
I don't know. I just don't. Again, going back to my point about all these new figures coming in, and I just don't see Rusev being a priority.
No. Yeah.
And I think this is just going to be a TV match win for Oba Femi. And that's kind of where Rusev is at this point. Like, I would be surprised at this point if he's even on the Mania card.
Oh, I don't think he would be. No.
Cole does a sit down with Liv Morgan, and Dominic pulls up, and she's not going to rush her decision. Cole thought he was going to get this out of her, and no, she's not disclosing. Vicair walks in, and they did this interesting deal where she's just berating Liv in Spanish, and Dom is both translating and reacting to what she is saying, but we don't know what they're saying unless you are fluent. And Liv breaks down in tears at the end of this. And part of you would say, like, man, this almost felt like all the bad faith criticism of the Bad Bunny concert that I don't know what he's saying. And so their explanation is that this video has been uploaded to social, that it has subtitles on it so that they could drive people to go watch the video and see what exactly she was saying to her.
Yeah, I actually watched the translated version of it. And I mean, it was essentially what Dom said, Vicair says, Liv Morgan was talking about sacrifice, and Vicair says, you don't know anything about sacrifice. You've had the best medical, you've had the best training under the WWE. If you want to talk about sacrifice, I grew up in Chile where wrestling didn't really, exist. And she had to, go to Japan, go to Mexico.
AEW?
She did not mention AEW.
No? Okay.
She didn't mention Forbidden Door in the match with Mercedes Moné.
I had a great match at Forbidden Door, and I got offers from both companies.
It was a really good, fiery promo from Stephanie Vicair. And I also would commend Dom for his role really throughout this entire feud, but especially like in segments like these where he has to both translate and also act and react to Vicair at the same time. And this is the most I've been engaged with Stephanie Vicair in like during this title run. And I think they've done a good job through Dominic in allowing her to just like be herself by speaking her native tongue. And I think we've always seen Paul Levesque through his booking in NXT as somebody who recognizes that allowing people to speak in their native tongue, even if you don't know what they're saying, it allows them to emote in ways that they can't try to speak a different language. I mean, can you imagine John cutting a promo in like French or something like that? Like you're so focused on the language, you don't have enough time to like actually bring in personality into.
It's a confidence thing. Like it's just like you're going to be so much more natural, of course, in your native tongue. Yeah. And I think that it is not the detriment that I think a lot of people believe it to be. That
not at all.
You don't have to speak Spanish to be able to understand the tone of what this was. And a lot of that was Liv's reaction and being in tears, the fire from Stephanie Vicair. It's like, I don't need to know what like if you're curious, they're giving you that avenue to hear the words, but you don't necessarily need that. I had every takeaway I needed from this segment.
Yeah, body language and intensity of your words, I think, says a whole lot more, So and plus add to the fact that you had the whole online component attached to it all. I thought this worked really well. So it's been 2 weeks. assuming this is the WrestleMania main event, I mean, they have a lot of time to build to this one. Like the ones coming off the Rumble are always the most challenging because you have such a long period of time. But I think they're keeping at this at a pretty good pace, just with dialogue off for these first 2 weeks, and doing it through Dominic, I think has been very effective.
Punk comes out and he addresses the criticism that he is jeopardizing the main event of WrestleMania. He says, well, in real sports, he didn't say real sports, but he said sports franchises qualify for the playoffs, but they still need to show up and play their remaining games. Balor, you have earned this beating. You attacked me in Toronto and ruined my final moment in the ring with AJ Styles. Little did Punk know what they had planned for next week. So Balor comes out with Dirty Dom and the returning JD McDonough. And Balor says, to be the best in the world, you need to learn from the best catch wrestlers in Europe. You've got to learn from luchadors in Mexico, the toughest dojos in Japan, and you have to beat Roman Reigns on your first night on Raw. That makes me the best, and I'm going to make the main event of WrestleMania better. Punk says, Finn, you used to mean something because I followed you all those years, and you did it all on your own. Meeting this guy really had a blind spot after he walked away from WWE toward the Bullet Club years. And he mocks Dominic and JD, turns his back and challenges them to jump him. And Punk doesn't need others' help to prove he's the best, but maybe you do. And Balor is caught in the middle here and opts to let Punk go. And Punk just throws the microphone at Finn Balor. And JD is upset at this over Balor not taking his shot at CM Punk from behind.
I think Punk has been sounding really good as this fighting babyface champion. I mean, he just has at this point, like a legendary voice and confidence, for a role like this. And I think he's been effortlessly showing that aptitude every single week here. Like Balor is in a tough spot. This is, a match where nobody can take him seriously as a competitor for this championship. But I think something that might be interesting that they can continue pushing is the fact that this might lead towards some sort of babyface turn officially, for Finn Balor that has him defect from the Judgment Day coming off the result of this match. If they could dangle that carrot as much, if not more than like the possibility of a title change, it would at least promise the audience that you might leave this match with some character growth and some relevant, narrative point.
Byron interviews Rhea and Io, and basically they're setting up that they're going to have another match with Nia Jax and Lash Legend after last week's no contest on SmackDown. But then the Kabuki Warriors walk in, and Kairi says Asuka is going to win the Elimination Chamber, and this was more just of Kairi, Asuka's interplay, and Io even reaching out to Kairi, being like, "Are you okay?" And Asuka just screams at her to come away here. So a bit of an olive branch extended by Io Sky.
You think this is leading to anything? Like, are we actually going to get something with Kairi and Io, Asuka, or is this just like their status quo from now on?
I think you have two options, and it all comes down to how they go with Rhea Ripley, because they are clearly making all these teases toward Jade Cargill and Rhea Ripley. And it's not unlike them that they can do teases that don't go anywhere, but they are certainly hinting at that. So I would say your options are Rhea either outright wins the chamber and you go in that direction, or they feel that this tag division, it requires these two as your champions. And you've got the Kabuki Warriors in play, you have Nia and Lash in play, and even beyond that, you do have the Bellas that you have to imagine are going to be somehow involved in this tag title picture going into Mania. I don't think you need Rhea and Io, but I also don't know, like, if you go with the Rhea option with Jade, I just wonder where Io falls into all of this as well, because you would want her in something significant for Mania, and I just don't know where she would end up.
Well, you got Asuka and Kairi.
Yeah, and maybe that is where Io could go, and you could do something.
There's a bit of a Julia tease there too on SmackDown.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think Elimination Chamber will kind of give you that option, but I think they're gearing up for some kind of multi-woman team ideal. No Bellas again this week, so I imagine they're just going to keep them off till after Chamber when they've got something in place. El Grande Americano and Penta are in a number one contenders match. I missed this earlier, but El Grande Americano had asked for an Intercontinental title match, and Pierce put him into a number 1 contenders match, which was revealed to be with Penta. So Los Americanos come out. They cut promos in Spanish for the Netflix crowd. After Penta lands the Penta driver, Grande kicks out of it, and then he's dealing with Rayo and Bravo getting involved, when all of a sudden Gable appears from underneath the ring to take care of Rayo and Bravo, hits a chaos theory to Rayo, and tosses Bravo over the desk. Kaiser is distracted by all of this and is caught with a great-looking springboard into the Mexican Destroyer as Penta wins in 7:56. And so Gable and Penta bump fists, and then Gable goes after Kaiser, hits a chaos theory, and tries for the mask, and is saved by Bravo and Rayo. And the more you watch this, I imagine this mask deal is probably going to happen. Maybe at Mania. I don't know if this is going to end up being a AAA deal.
Yeah, maybe. They're certainly investing a whole lot of it on Raw, and I don't necessarily see them paying it off on AAA, on the, like, what is essentially at this point like a YouTube show for American audiences. So finish was spectacular here with that springboard Canadian Destroyer. But I wouldn't say the match was, to me, all that memorable. Like, fine, but not necessarily memorable. I thought, like, they were giving you a little bit more reason to cheer for Gable's version of Americano here. But overall, I think they continue to offer very little reason for why fans should be picking one Americano over the other. Like, Gable, to me, is still very much seen as a heel. And it's not like I think the heat is supposed to be that he's had his identity stolen by this fake Grande Americano.
Where he's certainly presented more of a babyface here, whereas in AAA, like, it's Kaiser that the audience is more into, where it was like Gable took advantage of him being handcuffed backstage and took his spot.
That adds to the confusion even more if you're one of the people that might be following AAA in all of this.
The story's a lot difficult if you're watching both.
But even if you weren't, you haven't really been given that much reason to cheer for this version of Chad Gable over the Kaiser one, right? Like, so what? Like, he's had his identity taken. But I mean, the whole gimmick in the first place was you using this gimmick to lie to us about who you actually are. So why should I feel sorry for you that somebody has taken your gimmick and actually, arguably done a better job with it? So I don't think the reactions for this have been all that great, and I think that's at least part of the reason.
Are you saying that the AI graphics wizard Chad Gable is upset over stealing something that does not rightfully belong to you?
Oh my. Yeah. Well, maybe it's all a commentary on that. So.
Yeah, it's very meta.
Yeah.
Raquel is with Liv and Dominic, and she takes Liv away, who is all distraught after being berated by Stephanie Vicair. Balor and JD react to the segment with Punk, and JD's all furious of Balor not attacking him when he had the chance. JD explains, "I'm trying to help you become champion," and Balor wants to do this alone. Always a bad sign for a heel. Doing stuff on your own. That's not how we roll.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it could be a decoy, and maybe he'll still get Judgment Day. But I wonder if this will actually be a Finn Balor babyface turn coming off of this. He is coming out to that music, the babyface music. So we'll see.
For the Netflix audience, Kofi Kingston comes out with Grayson Waller to announce that Xavier Woods has been dealing with a shoulder injury, and now he needs time off. And they referred to Memphis as a poverty town. And I think the New Day is on its last legs.
Oh my God. Yeah. Is this even the New Day anymore? Like, we're talking about Grayson Waller and Kofi Kingston. Can you seriously call this the New Day?
Man, if you were to tell me like 18 months ago, okay, the New Day turning heel, I was like, okay, this is like a fresh, there's all this stuff on the table for them. This thing has gone nowhere. Like, Grayson Waller, to me, like, among the NXT call-ups, it's like, this guy's going to do great. Like, in the same spirit of like a Miz, he's a great talker. He's a good personality. He will work well on the main roster. And man, this has just gone
it's hurt
nowhere.
It's hurt Grayson Waller. Like, forget the New Day.
And frankly, I think this guy would have been a way better fit than Austin Theory in the Vision. Like, if I had to pick between the two, I'm not saying either of them would have been my first pick for that role, but if I had the two, I think Grayson Waller would. You might think too close to Logan Paul in terms of his character and such, but yeah, I don't know. This is just, it's really, it's rough going, man.
Yep.
AJ Lee comes out and she says, that this is serious business. It's her first match in over a decade, and explains how I wore that title with a butterfly, with pride. And she said there was a women's division before me and one after me, that she was the change agent. And I know who I am. I still want to fight all the other women here in WWE, but all roads currently lead to Becky Lynch. If I win in Chicago, then I walk into Mania as champion. And she calls out Becky, and Becky says, this is not going to be a feel-good moment for AJ or a comeback. This is your send-off and chance to have a retirement match. AJ, your gift was leaving. While I was making history for the last 10 years, you were making comic books. And AJ says, you know what? You can take the first shot, and puts her hands behind her back. It's like her and Punk came up with ideas for promos and decided, you do it. No, you do it. How about we both do the exact same thing to our heel opponent, and you turn your back, I'll put my hands behind my back. She even referred to this as being the theme of the night. She even called this out.
For her credit, she at least was self-aware. Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. Wait, it's just the two of them. I don't get into this as like this grudge aspect. Like, it's just very, even AJ trying to do a serious promo. I don't know. These promos have not clicked for me.
I thought last night was certainly improved from the week prior, which I was kind of surprised to see. Like, we weren't the only ones criticizing it, how tonally that was probably a little bit off the rails. I thought this managed to like deliver something that we were looking for last week, in that this was a much more serious AJ Lee. Becky is still very much doing the character. I think she could still afford to dial back the character a little bit, or at least only bring out like the sort of like deranged version of her at moments when, like the sort of conversation calls for it. But I thought still overall it worked to me a lot better than last week. I liked the lines here. I thought like Becky calling out, her making history for the past 10 years while AJ was making comic books, I thought was a really good one. And I think like AJ, what she had to say, I thought was very strong as well. So I was a fan of this segment, but I can also understand if people still feel like it's a little bit too cartoonish.
Hasn't hit me yet, but the heat of this was Becky backing down. She couldn't bring herself to strike AJ and walked away and said she will not fight here in Memphis. Pierce meets with the Vision, and everyone's blaming each other for the Masked Man, and Bronson says he's the problem solver, and he is going to take care of the problem that is the Masked Man. Kathy Kelly interviewed Maxine, who did her screaming promo about giving Nattie a receipt. I'm breaking ankles, taking names, and coming for vengeance. Can't wait. And then it was a video package for AJ Styles, and next week in Atlanta, there will be a special tribute for AJ. So guess he's going to be on the show, and we'll see what's what with AJ Styles next week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what else could it be? What do you mean what's what? Like,
I mean, you're either going to get just like the send-off segment that they didn't do at the Rumble, or you're going to do some kind of angle with AJ.
Man, and of course it's possible. Yeah, I'm not taking this to like, I'm not getting my hopes up to for this to be anything but just like a goodbye of sorts, like in his home state, not in Saudi Arabia. We have to expect some surprises, right? Like
it would be cool if they did just do a segment and you could have
Joe Daniels.
I don't know about Joe. I don't know about Daniels.
Air Paris.
Air Paris. I'm sure he would get on the next flight, or just himself fly to Atlanta, literally. Maybe David Young of TNA fame. Vince Russo. Who else?
I don't know, dude. Like, they could come up with a lot of people.
Certainly, like if you wanted to bring some people in, you could certainly have a Kazarian. You could do some stuff, but will next week be
Dixie? Maybe Dixie shows up.
Oh my God!
Let's see how what reception she gets. This time.
We'll see if it goes well. Might be the retirement of my AJ.
No,
could that be it?
Say it ain't so.
Next Monday, we'll find out. Not. And the main event: Javon Evans, Dirty Dom, and Gunther. So. Man, this crowd was not into this for a lot of it. It just sort of going along. Not that it was like a bad match. It just seemed like Memphis crowd. It was sort of like, damn it, we're not getting AJ tonight. We want AJ tonight, not next week. So Gunther is just chopping the hell out of everybody. Dom sneaks the bell hammer over to the steps and just leaves it there. Evans counters a power bomb, and then Gunther hits it on his second try. There was a Busaiku knee delivered by Javon, and down goes Gunther. Dom makes the save. Evans breaks out of the sleeper, goes for the OG cutter, and is caught in Gunther's sleeper, but Dom breaks it up with the frog splash, goes for a 619, but Gunther clotheslines him. So Dom rolls over, grabs the hammer, but Gunther catches him and picks up the hammer when Dragon Lee gets his comeback on Gunther. I was stunned. I didn't think they'd give him this much, but in fact, he nails Gunther with the ring bell, and we get a 619 to Evans. Frog splash is missed, and Evans hits the OG cutter, pinning Dom in 14:41. So Javon Evans joins Randy Orton, LA Knight, and Cody Rhodes. So he will at least get a participation trophy at the Elimination Chamber match.
And hopefully a highlight reel or two.
Oh, hopefully he gets, he will add certainly some great aspects to the match itself. He will probably not be anyone that is expecting to win this match, but nonetheless, and I guess we are going to get our Gunther destruction of Dragon Lee.
Sure, which I don't necessarily see it being much more than some sort of pathway towards Gunther versus Ray or Gunther versus Penta even. Although Penta seems, right now he's got an IC title shot. So, just maybe thinking a bit ahead. Could Penta beat Dominic for the IC title, and could that be a program with Gunther? It almost feels like a bit of a step back for Gunther.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that feels almost, you put too much behind him to not have, to me, a really significant match at Mania.
Sure. Well, talking about the match first. Maybe on the surface, a bit of a surprise to see Gunther not win this one, but when you really think about it, to have Gunther not pin in the chamber, I think
it makes a lot of sense. Yes.
And it breaks off into the Dragon Lee program. I thought the match was fun. Everybody in this combination offered something very distinct and different, and Evans continues to look really outstanding. So for us, it was a continued chance to see what his chemistry with Gunther was like and it just kind of made me want to see it on an even bigger stage than what Raw offered for them, like in the prior match. So.
I also thought Evans sorely needed something like this. He's been fine on the main roster, but he is not, to me, broken through the pack. And this at least gets him into a prominent match on the show.
He's a highlight reel guy. They played up that OG cutter last week really well. So you at least remember him as the highlight reel guy. But is he the champion? Maybe not yet.
No. But that concluded Raw. Average edition of the show. What did you enjoy? What did you not like?
I would say average as well. I think the Stephanie Liv program, I actually quite enjoyed that backstage segment of Stephanie speaking entirely in Spanish. Otherwise, it just felt like maybe getting pieces in place for Chamber. Balor and Punk, it's not going to have that much heat attached to it because I think Balor is such a lame duck challenger. They are teasing some tension with the Judgment Day as always. And then what else we got here?
The man in the box.
Man in the box. Yeah, that seems to be a big talking point. I wouldn't say this felt that important of a show.
No. Next week's Raw feels like a more important one. It's we've got the qualifiers, AJ Styles segment. Brock is on the show next week, and it's the last Raw before Elimination Chamber. So that seems to be a much more significant Raw. And then after Elimination Chamber.
The AJ tribute.
Yeah. So AJ
sorry.
is that should be a big segment as well next week. So there you have it, everybody. Those are our thoughts on Raw, but we thank all of you here for joining us for a special Tuesday edition of Rewind-A-Raw. We're back to our regular schedule this week with Rewind-A-Dynamite coming up on Wednesday evening after the show in Sacramento. Thursday is now Pollock and Thurston Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time each Thursday evening. And also dropping this Thursday is our newest Rewind-A-Wai. It is number 200 in the pantheon of Rewind-A-Wai shows. And to celebrate, we are going back to 2011 for WWE's Extreme Rules, featuring The Miz, John Morrison, and John Cena in a steel cage match for the WWE title. But the main event comes afterwards. The dark match announcement by John Cena that Osama bin Laden is dead. And how does WWE treat the announcement of Osama bin Laden's death? in only WWE fashion, which is both accompanied by chants of USA and Lex Luger's American music pumping out through the speakers in Tampa, Florida. So we will talk about all of that as we put WWE in 2011 under the X-ray and we see what is going on in this company some 15 years ago.
I don't know how many people out there would be nostalgic for 2011 WWE. Maybe some of you grew up with this time and really look back on it fondly, but I certainly don't. And often those make for better reviews, actually.
Yes. Pump up the Justice by Rev Theory and get ready for Extreme Rules 2011 coming out Thursday.
Yeah. Also released right now in the Post Wrestling Cafe, actually in place of this show last night, was our latest and final review of WWE Unreal Season 2, where John and myself got a chance to talk about the final episode of the season, The Pop, which focused, of course, on the reveal of the Seth Rollins worked injury at SummerSlam, among other things, including Cody and Cena's match and Cena's babyface turn, and also Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria in a fight that didn't really go so well.
But maybe the story I enjoyed the most of this second season, I thought the Lyra Becky stuff came off really well in this fifth and final episode. So yeah, you can listen to this show and all of our reviews of both seasons of Unreal, for that matter, under the double shot on the Post Wrestling Cafe. So thanks to everyone here on the YouTube channel. We're going to say goodbye to you.